Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you an update in Bitcoin. This is a weekly bar chart I'll be using. Same exact chart throughout. I'll zoom in a little bit at one point. But, we had a big sell-off on Monday. Early this week, Monday, Tuesday of this week. And I just want to bring to your attention, once again, this 5-year channel top we settled above back in November that shifted our focus to 122,433 as our next long-term target. Downside retracements to 83,093 should be considered buy opportunities at this point in time. And from here, we can round up from here and above 83,093. I'd say by the end of 25 or sooner, we should see this full wave count, A minus B plus A, 122,433. I like these full wave counts as targeting mechanisms. They work quite well, and I hold to it above 83,093. Also at 83,093 or just below it is a recently formed rising 1/3 speed line. Now, I use speed lines a lot in my analysis, especially when you have a steep rally that has occurred. This is from the November 22 low, but this is in line and increasingly so with 83,093, the channel top, the trend defining rising 1/3 speed line. A speed line analysis basically says you've got a 1/3 speed line and then you've got a 2/3 speed line, which I'll show in a moment. And as long as you're holding above the 1/3 speed line, the bull trend remains clearly intact. So you're buying downside retracement in the 80,752 to 83,093 region. This is good for the week of Monday, February 24th. I don't know if I brought that up early. I don't think I've written that anywhere. I just want you to know that this is good. These levels are all good for the week of Monday, February 24th. The 80,752 to 83,093 region is a solid zone to buy into on weakness. And from here, we can round up within, well, I'm just going to say by the end of the year, 122,433 could be sooner. Now, if we do close below 80,752, I just want to mention a couple things. Our initial target, not our ultimate target, but our initial target would take us into this zone. This could be, now this is a weekly chart. This could be a 1 to 2 week objective with a high volatility move. This could be a 1 to 2 month objective with the lower volatility move. But I would expect the market to ease back into the 68,964 area, 2021 high, and preceding that is a 3/8 Fibonacci at 73,396. 3/8 of the November 22 low against the January 25 high. So that's better than a 2-year stretch. And 3/8 back of those two extremes is 73,396. You can see how that lines up pretty well with this high from March of 24 of 73,071. So we would slip into this former congestive area. This can contain selling on a monthly basis. We could even round back up into the lower 80s from here within a month or two of testing it. But I do think long term, you should allow for longer term bearish continuation. I do think if we close below 80,752, and that would obviously also be back below this significant channel top at 83,093, that we can unwind. This could be the soonest. This would be with 3 to 5 months. This could also take the better part of a year, all the way back to 48,138. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think you can trade this. If you're long Bitcoin, and we close below 80,752, my suggestion is to lighten up significantly. If you want to have at the 68,964 to 73,000 region as a bottom picking zone, fine, but that should only be on like a 3 to 5 week, 1 to 2 month basis back into the lower 80s, because holding below 80,752 once we close below it does signal the 2/3 speed line, and that is the 2/3 speed line analysis. I'm going to zoom in here. Let me go back to this chart. With speed line analysis, when you close below the rising 1/3 speed line, that is to say 80,752, the 2/3 speed line becomes the objective, 48,138. So if we close below 80,752, I do think we've got a good annual high. This market then likely to unwind all the way back into the upper 40,000 region and climbing. This is consistent with all the wild activity we've seen in Bitcoin over the last 4 or 5 years. And if we close below 80,752, I see that as a sell signal into later year. There's actually a case to be made for weakness as we speak now. There is, and I'm zooming in here, we're below this 90,370 classic horizontal channel bottom. This in itself is a sign of weakness. I'm just not respecting it at this point in time, unless we were to also once again close below 80,752. So that channel bottom I mentioned here, that is at 90,370. I'm going to go back to this chart, 90,370. Bear with me, 90,370 is right there. Holding below this, if you're a near-term, if you're kind of a 2 to 3 week swing trader in Bitcoin, just know that this market is heavy below 90,370. We have a classic sell signal as we speak anyway. All of this consolidation and the settlement below this channel bottom is a sign of weakness. But I think what we can expect is not longer-term sell-off, but really more of a near-term sell-off to this significant, equally significant, and even more significant support than 90,370 is 80,752 to 83,093. Able to contain selling through the year, and from here we can round up later in the year to 122,433. Last thing I'll say on this chart is if we close below 80,752, it is get out of Dodge. In my opinion, Bitcoin very susceptible then unwinding into the upper 40,000, low 50,000 region by the end of the year. I'm going to zoom in one more time with this chart. Actually, let me go back to this chart, 90,370. If we can close above 90,370 at the end of this week, this is the week of Monday, February 24th. So if on Friday, February 28th, we close above 90,370, that neutralizes bearish momentum. When do we turn bullish? When do we turn positive? At this point in time, now this is based in part on this week's low. So if we break to new lows, this gets reconstructed. But as things stand right now, 100,235 is a descending 2-month channel top that can contain buying into later March, and from here we can fall back into the lower 80s. So in terms of the two-sided framework through the month of March, it is selling 97,723 to 100,235 in anticipation of then bearish rotation into the 80,752 to 83,093 region. But this lower area, just want to remind you, is by far the more significant. This is the zone to buy into as we move into later year, unless, of course, we close below it. And once again, then expecting the upper 40,000 region later in the year. But until then, you're buying the low 80,000 region. And if over the next, say, 3 to 5 weeks, we can close above 100,235, I think that shifts everything back into the bullish column. And within 2 to 3 months of closing above 100,235, we could actually reach our long-term objective at 122,433. That it remains a big picture objective anyway above 83,093. I hope that all made sense. I'm going to leave it at that for this particular Wicked Stocks video analysis on Bitcoin. You have a great week.